This is just sort of a short because I don't have the memory to really go deep into this stuff, but I've covered it just throughout the videos that I've done. But it is a big subject when you talk about population and census, sensors like in census when they do a population census. In the olden days, they used to go around door to door and how many people you have in your family. See, so in other words, they're gathering data on you. So this is how I sort of just button it up to make it really pretty simple. I grew up in Southern California in the 1950s when it was a lot more rural. I grew up in rural areas, which means there wasn't a lot of people per square acre, right? So that would be density of consciousness, the planetary consciousness field. So what I remembered, for example, when I grew up in Tustin and Newport Beach, California, it used to be you had greater freedom or you were freer. Your space was freer, which essentially meant you were traveling through areas in which the time it took you to get there using your energy was less. So you had greater free will spirit to experience more of those spaces because the population density was less. So you were experiencing less density. You were experiencing more light in consciousness. As more people moved in, the same way they did when they hit the beach, where was it, Plymouth Rock, right? When they hit Turtle Island, it brought onto America greater and greater lower density consciousness. So they're lowering the density of the consciousness and then breeding and building the cities upon which when you go into these, we used to call them sardine cans because they charge for the space. So the more money that they can make off the smallest amount of space, the more that they accumulate because that's the perception that they have of power. So the more rats, we used to call the rat race or the hamster wheel going nowhere, the Truman Show, is to make those population centers as dense as they possibly can, as dense so that people are in parking lots waiting 2.5 hours to get home, driving the stress and the anxiety. Yeah, that keeps lowering the density amongst 8 million people. So you see that with, I don't know what the population count is now because relying on their data is like stupid. Stupid is as stupid does because they lie about everything. They change master data, insert, pull stuff out, erase, reprogram. That's what they do. Okay. These are manipulators, master deceivers. They're liars, cheats, stealers. They're completely dishonorable because the only thing they think about is themselves. They operate purely on self-interest. That's what a corporate mind is. It's a corpus parasitic mind. It's a virus. Okay, so the more beings they can cram into all these little houses, little apartments, which are made out of junk. And how do I know that? Go take a look at a house in downtown Santa Ana that's still standing that was made in the late 1800s. When houses were made out of plaster, or in other words, ceramic, concrete, stuff like that, where you could be inside of a room listening to loud noise and somebody could be next door, wouldn't hear you. That means they have greater privacy and a greater state of peace. They don't want you in a state of peace, which is why they started making houses out of junk that fall apart. Even my own mother's house in Irvine, California, I noticed when I went in there, this was a house that was sold for, what was it, about $140,000, which would have been in 1974, 75. It ultimately was sold for about $300 and some odd thousand in 1997. So you see the difference in the cost. But the materials from which it was made was cheap, shoddy workmanship, because that's what happened in America, all across America, actually over time. In other words, they started building crap, okay, that it just keeps falling apart. So as shit keeps falling apart, you got to spend more money in order to acquire more shit that keeps falling apart, because that's what they build. They build crap and shit everywhere they go. And they pretty much trash everything wherever they go. Those are planet killers. That's what's here. That's why we're here. We're putting an end to it.